Hello and a very warm welcome to Game On. I'm Neha Bhardwaj-Alter, and today we look back on India's failed campaign in the West Indies in T20Is, having lost the series 2-3 against a team that didn't qualify for the ODI World Cup this year or the T20 World Cup last year. Hardik Pandya's young team were unable to outclass the hosts, who were suffering from their own problems of terminal decline with lack of infrastructure, lack of resources and general disinterest in wanting to win as a team. That says a lot about how poor India were. They did fight back in the third and the fourth T20Is after losing the first two. But the fifth and the decisive match proved India were not willing to put in the fight as much as West Indies did to win the series. Were India complacent? Did Hardik Pandya tactically err yet again? We will put these questions to Chetan Narula and Jamie Alter, who I know are just as disheartened as any other Indian cricket follower, because we didn't expect this, guys. Look at both of them laughing. But the bubble has burst when it comes to Hardik Pandya. Chetan, let me begin with you.
Hi, Neha, first of all. Look, I'm not going to judge Hardik Pandya too much on this, because I'm pretty sure that he did not get the team that he wanted. I mean, you look at the balance. If Hardik Pandya says that, okay, I wanted only 8 batsmen in my 15-man squad, my batting finishes at number 7, I have to pick 4 number 11s every time I go out on the field, then yes, the bubble has burst for Hardik Pandya and he should be nowhere near the Indian captaincy. The truth for me is that the selectors and the team management, of which Hardik Pandya is a part, all failed collectively in this because they could not balance out whether they are experimenting for the ODI World Cup or the T20 World Cup. Because I, for one, do not understand how should I attribute this loss to the T20 World Cup experimentation when you're still experimenting for the ODI World Cup. And then for Coach Rahul Dravid to come out and start making excuses about batting depth, this and that. Yes, Hardik Pandya could have been a little more proactive with his bowling options. But to me, it seemed like he was playing with one hand tied behind his back. So as much as I would like to fault him, I don't think he's completely to blame. And I would still want to see how the T20 side molds in the future under him.
But that's been the problem, Jamie, isn't it? The confusion around what the team wants. Once again, be it the ODI series or the T20I series, you're not seeing any kind of planning in how they want to go forward. And I'm talking about Rohit Sharma, I'm talking about Hardik Pandya, and I'm talking about Rahul Dravid to come out and say that, you know what, we didn't get the kind of squad we wanted in terms of, you know, depth, batting depth. That shows that the fault lies with you as well. Are you trying to tell me that the selectors are completely choosing this squad and that you have no say in it? And if you did have a say in it, why is it that you've had to play 4 number 11s in each and every match that you've played? There are concerns, because at the end of the day, this is meant to be the #1 team in T20Is, and you go to the West Indies and you lose to the West Indies, who are finding it difficult to win. They are struggling, and how? They didn't know how to celebrate their win yesterday. Did you see how uncomfortable they were when they were even holding the trophy? Because they weren't expecting it, and here we have a team that was meant to go there and win, and they've lost it 2-3, Jamie. How do you explain this?
Well, I think you start by acknowledging that India are nowhere a very good T20I team. And again, I mean, I'm not even going to give the rankings any importance. I don't think anyone who actually watched Indian cricket very closely believes that this team is #1, because the rankings are very, very flimsy, right? If they were a much better T20I team, they would have come back with the T20 World Cup last year. I think progressively we've seen for the last 18 months, 2 years, that India's T20 cricket is outdated. It's borderline broken. To expect it to revive itself against in 5 matches against the West Indies is probably a bit too much. But that said, I know the West Indies beat South Africa in a series when Robin Powell took over the leadership, but I don't really rate them very high. So I've said before, the first 2 matches where West Indies won by 4 runs and 2 wickets, that was not West Indies doing anything great. It was India being subpar and India actually losing those matches, right? It should have actually, the last match, very, very different.
Yeah.
For West Indies to come back after losing 2, full credit to them in that 5 match because that was the decider. It still should have been, like I predicted, 4-1 to India. Not because they're doing great things, but because West Indies, I just don't see them a consistent team. Now that said, yes, Chetan's right in speculating that Hardik Pandya probably was not happy with what he got. But again, you're a captain. You're not the 12th man. You have a say. You have clout. You are a transformed person after back-to-back IPL finals, one which your team won, one they were runner-up. So you have a lot going for you. So to say that you perhaps didn't get the right team, it's probably true, but you still have to use what you had. So I'm going to put that argument aside. Given what he had, does that explain why you don't bowl your best spinner for his 4th over? Is that why you start off with a lot of faith in Mukesh Kumar? You play him five matches. In 5 matches, I believe Mukesh Kumar bowled 12.5 overs. That to me just belies logic, right?
Yeah.
You've gone from bowling him, like we discussed last time. Chetan said maybe message aa gaya ki bhai isko World Cup ke liye taiyar karo. Makes perfect sense. But then one match you don't bring him on until the 18th over. One match you bowl.
10th over,
I'll get there. You bowl exactly. So it's very, very inconsistent, and inconsistency is not something we have come to associate with Hardik Pandya's captaincy. Maybe because he had a very poor series in his primary skill, that is batting and bowling. Maybe that, allied with the notion that he didn't get the squad he wants, perhaps that was a big factor. But again, like Chetan said, it's just one series, not his first series as captain, but I believe it was this series is when the countdown to 10 months down the line in the same West Indies, in the same Florida starts to count. Shockingly poor overall, but maybe only one series is not something we should be going after him for.
No, I think we should be. I think this is a big enough series, and why I'm saying this is, if India had won this, Jamie, everything would have been fine. But the fact that you lose to a team like West Indies, you need to ask the questions. You can't just say it's a process that we are trying to follow, we're trying to experiment. No. I think this process word has been used far too often in recent times, and somehow, this is just an excuse to get away with bad performances. Now, for all of you who are watching, I want to put this question to you as well. What seems to have gone wrong with India? Where did they err? Hardik Pandya's captaincy, has that bubble burst? Do let us know in the comment section below. But for what really happened in that 5th T20I, let me take you through this. How did India manage to lose this series? India won the toss. They chose to bat first, a move that backfired on them straight away as they lost both their openers, Yashasvi, Jaiswal and Shubman Gill, to the left-arm spin of Akil Hussain, leaving India at 17 for 2 in the 3rd over. Suryakumar Yadav then, he anchored the innings along with Tilak Verma, who looked fluent while scoring 27 of 18 deliveries. Once Tilak got out, Surya tried to build a partnership with captain Hardik Pandya, and after a valuable 44-run stand, India suffered a batting collapse, ending with a below-par 165 for 9 in their 20 overs. Surya scored 61 of 45 deliveries, but he ran out of partners as well. In reply, Hardik Pandya started with the new ball, along with Arshdeep Singh, who dismissed Kyle Myers in the very first over. West Indies then sent Nicholas Pooran at number 3 to disrupt India's bowling plans, and he did just that, scoring 47 of 35. But India were not prepared for a double assault as his partner at the other end, Brandon King, he smashed 85 of 55 against India's struggling bowlers, putting a 107-run partnership with Pooran to take the game away from India. Tilak Verma got the wicket off Nicholas Pooran, but it was too late as Shea Hope and Brandon King, they completed the chase in 18 overs, winning this T20I by 8 wickets. And with that, the series. It wasn't just a loss, guys, which I want to again talk about. It wasn't just a loss. It was showing how it's done. And I think that's also what needs to be taken into consideration. What also needs to be taken into consideration, Chetan and Jamie, is that India were complacent in the way they made their bowling changes, in the way West Indies came better prepared to get Nicholas Pooran at number 3, to give Akil Hussain power play overs to bowl, and he got both the openers. West Indies were a better prepared team. They wanted to win this badly. I can't say the same about India, Chetan.
No, absolutely not, Meha, because again, we have to go back to the basics that he did not I'm not going to say Hardik Pandya did not have the tools at his disposal. It was always going to be the same. I think after the first couple of matches itself, I told you that India will not win the series unless they have a really good individual batting performance. Individual batting performance throughout the T20 series. We saw Suryakumar Yadav score 80. We saw Yashasvi Jaiswal score some big runs. Shubman Gill chipped in with some runs. And that's why India was able to come back and make it 2-2. But West Indies overall, West Indies was playing a T20 series. They were picking players for a T20 series. Yes, probably they were shocked that they won the series, but they were picking players for the T20 World Cup in preparation for the T20 World Cup. They don't have to play the ODI World Cup. From day one, India did not know whether they were preparing for the ODI World Cup or the T20 World Cup. That batting lineup, it was absolutely atrocious to me. Yashasvi Jaiswal sitting out the first two games. Ishan Kishan, yes, for all his form and everything, I mean, he should not be your ideal opener. I mean, it has to be Yashasvi Jaiswal and Shubman Gill if you just go by the IPL numbers. So, overall, they continued with the ODI batting approach. Sanju, Samson, I mean, at this point in time, he's wasting my time, your time, Jamie's time, everybody else's time, his own time. I mean, what is really even happening? Why is he playing T20 cricket? Why isn't a Rinku Singh there? Why isn't a Dhruv Jurel there? Why isn't anybody else over there batting at number 5, batting at number 6, trying to finish matches? As I said, overall, India's performances lagged, you know, as you put it, they were not really T20 performances. As Jamie said, this was like a flashback, you know, into the past where, not to the past, probably to the last year, because since then they've tried to play more T20 cricket, try to approach it differently. But this reminded us of the way India has been playing its T20 cricket, you know, based on ODI approach. This was a reminder of that, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work anymore.
Okay, now this is what Rahul Dravid had to say after India lost the series. Again, I feel it's an excuse when you blame it on the squad or the lack of depth that you got in the squad. This is what Rahul Dravid said, and we'll put that question to Jamie and Chetan. Let's put that quote up of Rahul Dravid. He says the squad did not allow flexibility. He says, I think in terms of our squad here, probably it did not allow us the flexibility in some ways to be able to change the combinations a little bit. There you go. But I think going forward, we've got to look at certain areas in which we can get better. Finding depth in our batting has been an area we are trying to address. We're trying to do the best we possibly can, but that is certainly an area we can look at how we cannot weaken our bowling attack, but ensure we have a certain amount of depth in batting. My problem is that I'm kind of tired, Jamie, of Rahul Dravid saying the same thing and not really. I mean, I loved him as a player. I loved him as a cricketer growing up, but I don't know, him as a coach, especially in T20Is, I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know whether they have a clear plan. And I feel like a lot of people today will agree with me in the way they've gone about this whole series. I'm talking about the ODI series. I'm talking about the T20I series. And we are in a World Cup year at home.
Yeah, I think even before we come to Rahul Dravid, I think Indian fans, if they've already not braced for it, they need to brace for a lot of disappointment ever since Virat Kohli's captaincy tenure across 3 formats ended. And I'm on the same page. You get sick of these jarring comments about we didn't have this, we didn't have that. Luckily, he didn't say, Hardik Pandya didn't say, oh, we lost it in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 4 or 5 overs here or there, because that line, that cliched line, Lord knows we've all heard too many times. But again, to say that you don't have the squad, I mean, you're Rahul Dravid, you're the coach of the most important cricket team in the world. You're Hardik Pandya, you have the biggest job in international cricket, you know, for obvious reasons. You guys can, if you have a problem, you're able to say things, right? Because we know how weak the selection committee has been. When that T20I squad was named, and it was what 24 hours after Ajit Agarkar took over, people were saying, "Arey, ye team to pehle ban chuki thi. Agarkar ne bas aake usko announce karna tha." If there's truth to it, if there's not truth, it doesn't matter. You still, in the capacity of Hardik Pandya and Rahul Dravid, should have some say in what kind of players are coming through. And like we discussed before on these shows, there were backup options. You know, you took what, five batsmen, eight bowlers, seven bowlers, but it's not like you didn't have options. And I'm budgeting for the fact that certain players are not around, certain players are injured, certain players are rested. But you could have easily swapped four players with far, far better players. Now, where the truth lies, God knows. But again, I just go back to the blunders, the tactical blunders that Hardik Pandya was making, despite having, this. It's still a decent team.
Yeah.
Yes, four number 11s doesn't help. Akshay Patel batting at 4 one day, 7 the next day doesn't help, and doing very, very poorly. I think Akshay Patel and Sanju Samson not giving even 10, 12 runs consistently when you know there's four bowlers behind. This is a massive problem. But even with what you had, right, I just don't get it. I go back to when Tilak Verma was way ahead of him in the scoring stakes, could have easily got, I don't know, 60 not out. Hardik Pandya kept saying, Eno, Eno, Eno. And the very next ball, he kept playing these childish shots. So I'm just saying, five very muddling performances from Hardik Pandya, the enigmatic all-rounder, as well as five sort of strange matches tactically. What was his? Look, 3-2 is a series loss, but it's still a fairly tight series loss. What was Hardik Pandya's positive contribution in these five matches? I'm at a loss of words to understand.
Absolutely. That has cued me to Hardik Pandya's captaincy and how everybody is now questioning whether some of those decisions were right. What was Hardik Pandya thinking? We'll also tell you what he was thinking because he was asked this question in the post-match presentation. But the series loss is India's first against the West Indies in the last 7 years, and the knives are out for Hardik Pandya, the captain. Hardik's captaincy as well as his performance as a player has been average in the series. He claimed 4 wickets in 5 T20Is to go with 77 runs at a strike rate of 110. And his captaincy across the series has raised some eyebrows. That Team India has plenty to work on over the next 10 months leading into the 2024 T20 World Cup in the West Indies and the USA. That was underlined once again by some erratic performances from key players. But it was Pandya's handling of certain situations that left much to be desired. There was lack of clarity in how he handled some of the bowling changes. We've been discussing this throughout. From the very beginning of this series, we have no idea what Hardik Pandya is going to do when it comes to India's bowling. There is no plan, there is no prediction really because he's made so many changes. Perhaps hampered by his own average returns as an all-rounder, Pandya appeared irritable at times. We all remember what happened with Tilak Verma in the way he wanted to take 2 runs and Tilak Verma said no, and Hardik Pandya was irritable, and we saw what happened in that T20I where Tilak Verma was left stranded at 49. Of course, a lot of former players then came out and said, but milestones are 50 is not a milestone in T20Is. Nevertheless, Tilak Verma deserved that 50. Then overall, Hardik Pandya seemed to be short in terms of sharpness that we've seen him have in much of his 2 IPL seasons in charge of Gujarat Titans. He knows exactly what he's trying to do with Gujarat Titans. Somehow in this series that was missing. Reasons? Let's talk about Yuzvendra Chahal. He didn't bowl out Yuzvendra Chahal in the first 2 matches when Yuzvendra Chahal had actually got him wickets. And then initially he relied a lot on Mukesh Kumar and then hardly bowled him as the series went on. Then bringing himself on after a tidy period only to leak runs. Also, Akshay Patel, he bowled him, then he didn't bowl him at all, played him as pure as a batsman, just did not carry the aura of a captain in control of proceedings. A key reason, it can be argued, for India's series loss. And I think we cannot undermine what really happened when it comes to Hardik Pandya's captaincy, because yes, it has been called unique, which I feel like is too soft a word, Chetan, because there has to be a reason behind it. And at the post-match presentation, you can't so much as go, especially after you've lost. You can't go and just say, my gut say, I go by my gut. I don't really have any plans, because you do need to have plans in T20Is. There's a reason why there are matchups, there are battles, I do really feel that this will make all your selectors also think of Hardik Pandya, the captain, and whether he's good enough.
Neha, it's a very tough question that you've put to me, very honestly, because, I really want to support Hardik Pandya here. Let me be very honest. Sometimes players go out and say things which they probably don't mean, for him to say that, okay, I'm going by my gut feeling, I don't really have plans. I don't think that's completely true, because he's played enough T20 cricket. He's led his Gujarat Titans team to 2 finals, won one of them. So there have to be plans, like you mentioned, the matchups, etc. But did he have the tools? You know, he could not drop Akshar Patel. He could not bowl Akshar Patel because they were left-handers at the crease. He started using Akshar Patel in the power play on a flat track where, batsmen were hitting him against the line, left-handers hitting him against the line. Half the West Indies side is are left-handed batsmen. So why was Akshar Patel even playing? He was playing because they did not have enough batsmen to last number 7, number 8. So for me, how are you going to formulate plans when you don't have the players? I mean, if he doesn't have the players, if he doesn't have finishers, if he doesn't have all-rounders, he's supposed to pick Arshdeep. Did he play Avesh Khan? Did he play Umran Malik? No. His hands were bound. He had to play Arshdeep because there was nobody else who could lead the bowling. He had to play Mukesh Kumar because obviously he's in contention for the World Cup. He had to play Kuldeep because obviously in contention for the World Cup. Yuzvendra Chahal, the same thing. There was no experimentation to be done. There was, like I said, his hands were tied. How are you going to plan?
Okay.
How are you going
I'm going
to
stop you here. I'll tell you.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you. Yuzvendra Chahal. Why would you play around with his confidence when the bowler has got your wickets and then you don't give him another over? And then you bring him on. When the confidence is completely low, the guy has gone for runs, you bring him on in the power play to bowl against Nicholas Puran, who is in the form of his life, and then he goes for a lot of runs. Why didn't you get Mukesh Kumar right in the beginning yesterday as well, right? You gave Mukesh Kumar the 10th over. You knew the bowlers were struggling because it was raining, the ball was getting wet. Both your spinners, Kuldeep Yadav or Yuzvendra Chahal, both of them went for runs, could not do much, but you still waited. So I am with you. I do believe that, and I loved him in the way he captained Gujarat Titans. But where there are problems, those need to be seen and said, you know what, that was a problem that should have been done better.
Yes, there is no doubt about it that he could have done better with what he had, But to my mind, I think he probably gave up the fight before he even started the fight, given the tools at his disposal. But yes, there are things that you cannot justify. I'm not going to sit here and justify his captaincy that, he did not bowl the 4th over for Yuzvendra Chahal. But look, it is not the first time that Akshar Patel or Yuzvendra Chahal or anybody has bowled in the power play to batsmen who are in the form of their life. It's not the first time. They do that day in, day out in the IPL. Sometimes maybe the players were not up to the execution. Yuzvendra Chahal, yes, he's been bowling brilliantly, but probably he didn't bowl good enough in the power play. That could be a factor. So we tend to blame Hardik Pandya for that factor. I'm not going to sit here and defend everything that he did. He definitely could have done things better. But from the analytical point of view that we are sitting and discussing here, for me, the bigger problem is what the team management has done, what the selectors have done, rather than seeing what the captain has done with what was at his disposal.
Okay.
That for me is the bigger picture.
Okay. Jamie, do you want to come in? Actually, you know what? Let's put this quote. Let's put Hardik Pandya's quote up for everybody, and then I'm going to take a reaction from Jamie. Hardik Pandya, after the match, this is what he had to say. He says, if you see, we lost that period post the 10 overs. We lost the momentum when I came in and couldn't capitalize on the situation. I think we are going to challenge ourselves. We try to get better. In hindsight, it's fine. We don't need to explain much. Losing is good at times. On the positive side, we've got a lot of learnings. I think the boys played well, but I failed to play accordingly at that point in time. And yes, that is another problem, which brings me to the next question. What is Hardik Pandya's batting position, or what should be Hardik Pandya's batting position in T20Is? But clearly, he wants to take his time. It's something that he does for Gujarat Titans. He comes higher up the order. Is that something he should be looking to do, Jamie? Number one, that's one question. The other one being, in the last match, when you were playing with Tilak Verma, you came in place of Sanju Samson to finish the game. Yesterday, you sent Sanju Samson first, put him in that position where, of course, it was an opportunity for Sanju Samson. We'll discuss that. But then you came in much right after Sanju Samson, is that something that he should have seen? He should have played a captain's knock, come in at a time, come in at number 5 and finish the game. It's a crucial match. India had to win the series.
Yeah, look, given all that Hardik Pandya has achieved, and let's just talk specifically about T20s here, because this is a discussion based on a T20 series result. He set the bar very high. He's sort of been on a downward spiral, or maybe an inconsistent spiral in regards to his batting. I still believe that he's the best finisher that this team has. But maybe when your batting is not clicking, maybe you actually want to, in hindsight, maybe he might think, maybe I should have gone and just batted at number 6. Yes, there was a very, very long tail, but I think there was enough evidence to suggest that he was struggling in the first couple innings, right? I mean, 15 or 20 off 15 looks good because that last ball was a 6 that won the match.
Yeah.
He was struggling. The shots he did hit, there were some good shots, but I remember there was an edge down to third man. There was a miscued shot to cover. When he got out, also caught behind, looking to work the ball towards mid-on. From a technical aspect, there were a few shortcomings. Maybe in hindsight, he will tell himself one day when he's sitting in his room, maybe I should not have batted at 4. Maybe I should have just come down. Because there are times, and we've seen this with many players. Sometimes they think, the batting more balls in a T20 or a one-day might actually bring back to form, but it often proves counterproductive. Maybe sometimes, and again, it's a very thin line here, maybe sometimes you're better off just coming, okay, we need 10 runs, I'll go there. When you need 25, 30, and you have a well-set Tilak Verma, maybe that day someone else should have come. But again, we've discussed the Chahal issue, we've discussed the Arshdeep issue, but again, I just go back to the uses of Mukesh Kumar. 5 matches, he could have bowled a maximum of 20 overs, right? He bowled 12.5. So somehow, even factoring for a message that maybe we need to get this guy ready, 12.5 overs out of 5 T20s, which again, frankly, I think he should not have been on all 5. But just 12.5, even despite this argument that he doesn't have the right players, it says that he doesn't have any faith in that guy. Because if you're told to play him in all 5 matches, and then you only bowl him for 12.5, that's something which is going to take, he's not answerable to me or any of us here, but somewhere down the line, that might prove very, very indicative of where India went wrong with these 5 matches in terms of their planning. Like Chetan said, this was a tournament based entirely on what's going to happen in the months of October and November, which is flawed logic right now.
Which is ironic because you have absolutely no answers to any of your questions that you wanted answers to before the series began for the World Cup squad. I'm just coming to you, Chetan. Just let me put the other quote as well of Hardik Pandya's, where he's saying all lost but fine here and there. He goes on, let's put that quote up as well. All these games are the games where we are going to challenge ourselves. In the hindsight, one series here and there is fine. This is the same thing that Rohit Sharma says. It almost seems like the moment you become the captain, you start seeing things differently. This is exactly what Rohit Sharma would say, and we'd say, you know what, one series here and there, let's accept that there have been problems. Instead of saying, oh, it was just one series, we were experimenting, oh, it's a process. Anyway, he goes on to say it's a longer process, which I don't need to explain much. The boys are trying to commit themselves well, and I think that is going well. It's a long way, T20 World Cup 2024. And the next is the ODI World Cup. Losing is good sometimes, and it teaches you a lot of things. Again, losing is good sometimes, which is what he said in the earlier quote as well. It does not cover up the messes. Yes, Chetan, go ahead. Losing is good. It teaches you things.
No, look, I was waiting for my chance to come to speak on Rahul Dravid. He's just come out with a quote. Yes, Hardik Pandya's quote is there, all good. He's also come out and said, Dravid has also come out and said that there is no batting depth. I hold Rahul Dravid personally responsible for this. He's been in the job for 2 years now. If he had said this when he had started the coach's job, I understand that the previous coach did not leave you enough batting depth. But that was not the case. The previous coach did leave you enough batting depth. You just didn't know how to use it. The case in point is last year's T20 World Cup, where Dinesh Karthik was played into the World Cup for 4 matches, and he faced 22 balls. All the time, Rishabh Pant was sitting on the bench. So don't talk about you don't have batting depth. He had the batting depth and he did not use it. And now, 2 years down the line into his coaching job, 2 months before the World Cup, you're talking about a lack of batting depth. That, for me, is a sackable offense for a coach. sackable offense. And the problem is, we are all very sweet on Rahul Dravid.
Yeah.
You know, because
I
he
agree.
was such a legendary batsman,
Absolutely.
such a legendary player. But we are not able to divide or separate Rahul Dravid, the batsman, from Rahul Dravid, the coach. And let's be very honest. Rahul Dravid, the coach, he lost the World Test Championship final, did not win in South Africa, lost the T20 World Cup. I mean, almost lost the
ODI series.
The series with Australia at home.
Yeah.
Lost this series against West Indies. And probably will not win the ODI World Cup as well. The Asia Cup last year, that was also lost. The Asia Cup this year, I don't have big hopes for that either. So what are we even doing? I mean, should we cut our losses and sack him before the ODI World Cup? That's not the worst idea, I would say, at this moment.
That's not happening. That's not happening, just as we said Tilak Verma might or might not. Actually, after having taken Nicholas Puran's wicket yesterday, I think Tilak Verma should be fast-tracked into that World Cup squad. But we'll come to Tilak Verma in just a bit. Let's also put another quote of Rahul Dravid on the lack of depth and why he thinks that has happened, given that he's been the coach. Was he not responsible for the squad that was selected? Are you trying to tell me Ajit Agarkar, who came halfway through or at least just before the squad was selected that squad? Anyway, he says these games are going on and scores are becoming bigger and bigger. If you look at West Indies, they had Alzarri Joseph coming in at number 11 and he can hit a mean ball. So you have sides that have that depth. Obviously, we have some challenges on that front and we need to work on that. It's certainly something that this series has shown us and we need to build on that depth. And this is what is laughable, Jamie, because you are then talking about a country that has the best league, T20 league in the world. And yet you're not being able to find, lower order batters who can bowl, who can hit a long ball. Are you really saying Alzarri Joseph for the West Indies is doing the job, and as an Indian team you do not have anybody? And when your national coach says it after you've lost a series to West Indies, who've not qualified for the T20 World Cup last year, ODI World Cup this year, what does this say about your own planning, or rather the lack of it?
Very, very worrying. In fact, I missed that Alzarri Joseph statement. It's the first time hearing of it. And I'm just trying to hold back my laughter. I don't think any coach at any level, last place I'd expect to hear it coming from was the coach of the Indian team using Alzarri Joseph's, not his bowling, his batting at number 11. I mean, that's an all-time low for me when it comes to this cupboard of quotes that Rahul Dravid and the captains keep picking from. Again, look, you had the IPL. I think it was a few shows ago we discussed. There actually were options. I'm not saying they were match winners. I'm not saying they were proven, but there were enough replacement options in every single department, from the openers to the middle order, to the all-rounders, to finishers, to bowlers, to keepers, to spinners. There were options. The cupboard was not bare just based on this IPL. You had all-rounders like Deepak Hooda, who's got an international T20 century. But yes, due to some a drop of form, but more than drop of form, your mismanagement of Deepak Hooda, right? He came into the Indian team, got a decent run because he scored about 450 odd runs in one IPL season. This was last year, batting 4 and then 3. But then you batted him at 7, 7, 7. A very, very tough situation where very few Indian players. And here I go back to why Hardik Pandya is so critical as a finisher. When you're getting 6, 7 balls to face, it's the toughest job in cricket. And when you get out first ball, caught at deep mid-wicket twice, I remember Deepak Hooda, he suffered this fate. Yaar, iski to batting form gayi hai, ye galat hai. But again, it's just mismanagement. So you had options. We've talked about Shivam Dubey, we talked about Venkatesh Iyer. Yes, they're not bowling, but there are batting options. Still, you pick this squad because, again, probably the one-day World Cup was weighing down on you. It just goes back to mismanagement. I mean, at some point, yes, this did start with Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri, but the way it's nosedived since Rohit Sharma and Rahul Dravid came together, and now we're seeing it with Hardik Pandya, it just doesn't inspire much confidence right now.
Chetan?
Meha, there is a point to what he said, though. I mean, in terms of the number 11 batting, you see the way Alzarri Joseph batted and scored those 15 runs needed to win the game.
Yes.
When India needed those 15 runs, Yuzvendra Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav, they could not even put bat to ball.
Yeah.
They were afraid to score those runs. So there is a bit of a point. Yeah. Because these batsmen, these bowlers, in fact, are given batting practice.
Then drop Kuldeep Yadav and Yuzvendra Chahal.
Who else is there? Ravi
That's
Bishnoi
the
is there. They
thing. I
played
mean,
him
there's
one
Washington
game. That's
Sundar.
the
Look
thing.
for
Yeah, exactly.
Washington Sundar. Get Ravichandran
Absolutely.
Ashwin. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But if
Absolutely.
you are
But my,
so hell-bent on getting somebody, and you need, this is T20Is, you need batters right till number 10, number 11, right? Then invest in these guys,
but I'm also
right?
blaming Yuzvendra Chahal here. But I'm also blaming Chahal here because he's all about Instagram and social media and vibes and this and that. Batting is also his responsibility. I mean, if you have to score 10 runs, you should be able to score those 10 runs. And Chahal doesn't bring that to the table. You know, you have to pick 10 players who can bat, and then you pick Yuzvendra Chahal if he's in your playing 11. Same for Kuldeep Yadav. I mean, he scored half centuries and centuries in first class. And for what? You couldn't even manage to score 10 runs. That's where Alzari Joseph comparison is still valid. But to me, again, it's a massive batting failure. The lack of depth comment is not relevant. But this point, maybe, just maybe. But again, you're right. You're absolutely right. You could have picked far better players, like Jamie said, like you said. Washington Sundar is fit for Ireland and Asian Games. Isn't he fit enough for this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
Yes, Jamie.
no, I'm saying where for me the Alzari Joseph comment jars is, you cannot be as a coach signaling out the samne wala team ka number 11 for his batting skill, right? Because you could have picked better bowlers, right? We've discussed this in the ODI and T20s. You cannot have 4 tail-enders. Arshdeep Singh falls in the same category. Ravi Bishnoi, same category. Avesh Khan, same category. Avesh Khan could remembered for taking off his helmet and swinging it in that win over RCB. But he cannot bat, right? Mukesh Kumar cannot bat. So it's because of, again, poor selection, limited opportunities, far too many bowlers. You find yourself in this situation. But that said, you had options to fall back on. There are some lower order players, or bowlers I should say, who can bat better than at least 3-4 of these jokers doing the job right now. And that image from, I forgot which match it was, second match, Chahal going on stopping Mukesh Kumar. It just says on top of all we've discussed.
No, I get it.
That's why for me the comment, I get it. There's logic what he's saying. But if you have to fall down to use samne wala ka number 11, it just says that you are to blame.
Or usme bhi number 11, you're talking about Alzari Joseph. You're talking about West Indies. If they can find a number 11 who can hit a long ball, you surely can. Now let's talk about both of their favorite player, Sanju Samson. With his spot in the ODI squad, not guaranteed at the moment, Sanju Samson is hurting his own chances due to inconsistent performances in white ball formats. Not that he's looked out of form, but anyone in his position can't afford to return with 3 failures in a row. Samson, who had scored an eye-catching third ODI half century in the final ODI less than 2 weeks ago, he had he's in fact scored just 32 runs at an average. This is in the T20Is at a strike rate of 114.28, average of 10.66. Samson hit a couple of boundaries during the last T20I as well. It was a 9-ball stay, but once again played an ordinary shot to gift his wicket to the opposition. And this happened right after the halfway mark. Samson was looking at guiding Romario's shepherd delivery towards the third man region. In process, the right-handed batter edged it to the wicketkeeper behind the stumps, Nicholas Pooran, and got out. And with that, has once again put us back to square one about whether Sanju Samson should be in that squad to the World Cup. Has the time run out for Sanju Samson? Both of them are shaking their heads, and I know till 2 days back, Jamie really was drilling this down our throats that look, he has an average, ODI average of over 50 plus. He should be in the ODIs. But Jamie, I keep coming back to the same point. Sanju Samson had to be more consistent. He had to score that 100. You know, I read this somewhere, and then I was looking at Mahendra Singh Dhoni's numbers. In his 5th ODI innings, Mahendra Singh Dhoni scored 140 plus against Pakistan and never looked back. You've got to play that kind of an innings where the world just stands up, takes notice of you and says, wow, he's such a talented player, he needs to be given a long rope. Sanju Samson just hasn't done it. Unfortunately, his time has run out.
Look, T20s, that he should not have been playing these 5 T20I matches. I've said it before. Again, he probably played them because they sort of thought with each passing match, Let's give him one more chance. Maybe he'll get something, but they were barking up the wrong tree. Ishan, Kishan should have played all five matches as the keeper batsman. They were entirely wasting their time by putting Sanju Samson up in these 5 matches. Did not bat in 2 matches. But again, like we keep talking about, you need to be grabbing your chances. And in now 20, 21, 22 T20Is across a very scattered, checkered career, he's not done anything of note in the T20I format. There was one innings that came a year ago, I think, against Ireland, a 70 odd. That is not good enough to hold your place down. He should not have been given these 5 matches. You should have taken the call after his first failure, maximum second failure. Why Ishan Kishan went out and this guy was made to keep, it's beyond my thinking. I still believe he has, maybe had a role to play in one days. But again, these two formats, while similar, the selection overlaps. You did not grab your chances. Now I don't see any way you can justify him being in the World Cup squad.
Being a Sanju Samson fan is like being an RCB fan. It's just so frustrating, right? It's so disappointing. You want to support your team just like you want to support Sanju Samson, but he does not give you reasons, big enough, strong enough reason to say, you know what, I can be part of that squad, Chetan. And which is what has happened yet again. He's been given the opportunities, and like Jamie said, maybe T20Is wasn't the right format. You should have tried him in ODIs, which they did. But again, last 2 ODIs, one he scored a 50, one he failed. Overall though, he's not done enough to just, look at the difference. Look at the difference between him and Tilak Verma and what Tilak Verma has done in the chances that he's been given.
I mean, the RCB comparison made me laugh because, for all their poor decision making, I mean, they still give their fans something to cheer about. I mean, there's still something there. I mean, I believe RCB fans are to be cherished. They are the most passionate fans in Indian cricket in that particular sense. When it comes to IPL, of course, to support your team the way they do for 16 years without having really won a trophy, it takes a form of bravado, really. Sanju Samson fan, that's just a vibe because that's a trend, right? That's a social media trend. Virat Kohli having fans, Rohit Sharma having fans, I understand. Even Rishabh Pant having fans, I understand. They've done something. They've achieved something. What has Sanju Samson done? If you say I'm a fan of Sanju Samson more than any other Indian cricketer, you're just wasting your time. You're literally wasting your time. Stop watching cricket. It is not for you. This sport is not for you. Just stop watching cricket. You're just wasting your time. Now, let's not even talk about what MS Dhoni does. I mean, that's an insult to MS Dhoni, the cricketer. If you compare what he did in his 5th ODI and we are saying, oh, Sanju Samson should be that parameter. No, his parameter is Tilak Verma. Let's not even involve MS Dhoni. And let me also, I hope Jamie doesn't mind because he knows what happened on Friday on another show. And I have spent the entire weekend analyzing Sanju Samson's ODI stats. He is a stat padder. Let me just be very, very upfront about it. He is a stat padder. Let me count those innings for you. He scored 46 against Sri Lanka at Colombo, batting at number 3. He got out trying to hit a 6. That was the India B team because the India A team was in England playing the Test series. He should have scored more runs there, cemented his spot, just like in the West Indies, scoring that half century. But no, hitting more sixes was important. He scored 54 against West Indies. He was run out, but the match was in an impossible position. Shardul Thakur and Akshar Patel won that match for India. He scored 43 not out against Zimbabwe. I'm not going to count it. 43 not out, good. His average increased. 86 not out against South Africa. India lost that match. You want to count it? Great. Again, his average increased. Then 30 not out against South Africa again. But India won that match because Shreyas Iyer scored 100. Kishan scored 93. And he scored 30 not out just to increase his average. You take out the 51 he scored against West Indies. You take out these not outs. His average falls below 30 in ODI cricket. A strike rate of less than 70. He's a stat padder in ODI cricket. Does not deserve a chance. Like I said before the show started, he's wasting your time. He's wasting Jamie's time. He's wasting my time. If you're a Sanju Samson fan, stop wasting your time.
He's totally wasted your time, given that you were taking out all these stats on the weekend.
Because it just made me so angry. Because this guy, I was on tour in 2014 when this guy was part of the Indian team squad. If you're on the fringes, You break down that door of selection. You score runs, and you score runs, and you score runs. Sarfaraz Khan at least scores those runs. He's scoring 1,000 runs a Ranji season.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing.
That's your comparison. When has Sanju Samson scored 1,000 runs in a Ranji season?
Yeah.
Broken that door down. Just because justice for Sanju Samson is trending on social media, you don't pick him for the World Cup.
Yeah.
No,
I get it. I get it. Absolutely. I think what he's done is completely wasted these opportunities. And I've got to also give credit to the Indian team management. They've tried. It's not like they haven't tried. In the absence of Rishabh Pant, they have really stuck with Sanju Samson. They've stuck with Ishan Kishan. And of course, Ishan Kishan is way ahead in terms of that race. Yes, quickly, I'm running out of time.
Yeah. Jamie said that, it was absolutely waste why they persisted with him instead of Ishan Kishan. No. It showed the world that we are wasting time with Sanju Samson. That chapter should be over for Indian cricket now.
Strong emotions there. Let's end this show. Then thank you so much, Chetan Nirula and Jamie Alter, for joining us here. That's it then on this special. How do you like our programming? Do let us know in the comments section below. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest from the world of sports. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really